For those who do not know, this is New York, New York. You hear my accent?
How you guys doing? How's everything? This is definitely a blessing and a wonderful opportunity to be speaking with such a great individual, such as we all know, the all great Sean O. And this is definitely a conversation in the making due to the many conversations him and I have had over the course of years. And this brother has definitely enlightened me and helped me in so many ways. And this is just my payback through God's anointing, allowing this to take place. So I'm very thankful to be here. Y'all probably clowning me because I'm in the house with a hoodie on in my hat, but it's all love. Because it is what it is.
From New York. So with that, my comment, this gentleman right here in front of you helped me to win my part of a business presentation in an event. And that's where I was allowed to be on the other side of the camera, meaning I heard about his prowess behind the camera. I've seen videos and skits, but when this man has me doing certain things in my mind, I can appreciate it. But I'm like, wow, that's a great mind. It's like one scene we were filming and he kept doing it over and over. And to me, it was so simple, but to him, he was looking at some intrinsic value of the angles and everything. And so the reason I'm sharing all of that, he has helped me in life to have a greater appreciation of those who do filmmaking and video. And even though I do these interviews and I've had to learn how to edit, something that I avoided doing, just thinking about the memories of how he took his expertise. Because what impressed me the most, one time I told a guy who played basketball every day for years, every day he played basketball inside and outside. And one day I was on the sideline, I said, man, I'll take a team and beat any team you have. And they had a unit tournament and I went on the unit and I actually got, if there are 10 top basketball players, I had 7 of them on the same team. And I learned a valuable lesson. And here's what I learned. My team went out there and they did not have a floor general. I had power forward, I had small forward, I had center, I had shooting guard, but I did not have the individual I'm telling you about. And he took a team and his average team's height, he was like 6'1". His average team's height was like 5'7". And they went all the way to the championship and lost. And when it was all said and done, he told me something. He said, why didn't you ask me to play on your team? And I said, man, I didn't think that you play on my team. I thought you put your own team together. And I said, I got all those guys, but I have an appreciation that when a man spends time perfecting his art, no matter if I'm able to do it somewhat, no matter if I've done some products and people applaud it, if a man spends time crafting work day in and day out, you have to have an appreciation for that. And that's what this man does concerning videos. So what's been going on, my brother?
Everything has been good. It's been a transition from one stage of life to another stage of life. And it's been very interesting because of the battles that, we deal with coming from where we've come from. Mm-hmm. And, it's funny because prior to this, you and me were just talking about speeds. And when it comes to speeds, it's executing and accomplishing things. And depending on who's in charge at the time, you could be moving faster than what they're anticipating. And that could create an atmosphere of you're not doing things right. And then you're thinking to yourself, how am I not doing things right? And then they'd be like, you're moving too fast. Well, according to who am I moving too fast for? And then when it's broken down, you're thinking to yourself, well, are you personally putting a timeline on my life? Or is that the rule or the norm of the environment of what I'm under at this point in time? So like I was just sharing with you earlier, I've dealt with that for a great portion of transitioning from one place in my life to this place in my life. And though I'm still under certain restrictions, I'm still experiencing that, but I'm not allowing it to hinder me because when it's my time to go, time is not even going to matter anymore because I had my set time to do what it is that I did. So in my mind, how I receive it is just like, hey, every second counts. So I'm going to capitalize on it as much as I possibly can. And then when I'm gone, then my story can be told, because I won't be here to see my story be told. My story is going to really be told and come under, it's going to flourish once I'm no longer here. So my time is counting down. You know what I mean? So I got to go off the hard, man. And that's a little bit of New York for you.
I heard Les Brown one time say, "You gotta be hungry."
Yes.
And
Every
so,
morning.
yeah, when you say that, that stands out to me because I believe that there is some validity in the fact that sometimes people, when we feel like we've missed out or we've squandered opportunities, that there is a history of individuals who try to get back or accomplish things they used to be able to accomplish too fast and they crash. But also, I believe there is a valid point that when you're on point and you're doing things at the pace that you go, sometimes people observing you are intimidated because it exposes the mediocrity that they've settled for. And mediocrity can look different. Mediocrity for a businessman can look like it took him 20 years to reach a position that someone else reached in 5 years. And instead of appreciating that young man in the 5 years,
Yes.
he's saying it took me 20. And there's even a mentality. I've witnessed a mentality on a college campus and on a prison compound. And that mentality is this: I got the brakes beat off of me to join this particular fraternity. They put me through hell. So it's no way that I want to stop hazing, because if I had to go through it, you
Right.
got to go through it. And I
Right.
saw men on a maximum security compound have to go through hell, not because they had to, but because the men who were putting them through it felt like if I had to go through it,
And I have
you
to
had to
impose
go
that.
through it.
And I want to piggyback off of what you just said, Sean, because remember when we first met, and you was just like, it was almost like, yo, how did this guy just elevate like he just got here? But I'm gonna say this. It's one of those things. And I remember when we first met, and I was telling you about film and how I was getting into it. You kind of looked at me, it was just like, wow, you know what I mean? Just my mind and my focus and vision as a visionary, as a creative. And when you say that, it's almost like when you're able to move through the ranks without having to experience what others had to experience, that hurt, that pain, they kind of become, they become envious and jealous of you and what you have. And I'm not going to lie, I have really watched you and I learned from you to never, ever doubt who you are, to never ever second guess your talent and what it is you're capable of. And it's funny that I'm even telling you this, because this is what I learned from you personally as we grew together under that umbrella. And for me, it was just like, you know what? I know who I am and I know where I'm going in life and I know what I want to accomplish. However, I did it in a very brash way, because you used to always
Yeah, yeah.
you used to always talk to me about that. But you know what? I could almost attribute it to my New York way, but it's something that's inside of me. It's a burning desire that knows what I'm capable of. And I realize that my time here is limited. You know what I mean? So I want to appreciate and I want to get out all of this energy, all of these visual things that I see inside of my head. And it's just like, when you see some of these artists, any artist, like some artists in their head, they just want to get it out. And it's just like, there's not enough time. You know what I mean? Like your brain is just overwhelmed with all of these ideas and other people can't fathom that. But a lot of people try to take a square and force it into a circle, because somebody that could be jealous of me, they could be an excellent artist. They could be an excellent basketball player. And in my head, I'm like, man, when it's time to play ball, I want to get picked, but I don't get picked because I'm not creative in that aspect. But I don't get jealous or upset. I look at that person and I encourage them on, like, hey, man, you the better ball player, man. Go out there and do what you do. You know what I'm saying? And I wish people could understand that, because it's like, instead of tearing down, you can lift up, and two heads are better than one. And if people were to come together instead of maintaining that mentality of the hazing, then people can go a whole lot farther, because it's all in the perception and the understanding that you don't have to put somebody else through what you've been through. Instead uplift them and encourage them. And I believe when we experienced what we experienced, that was our thoughts. We're going to encourage, we're going to uplift, because though we were in there, we both were known as individuals who wanted to help people, but on different planes. But if anybody would say, hey, I need to get a packet done, recommend Luke Jackson. Hey, I need spiritual uplifting, I need that class on Sunday, Sean Oliver. You see what I'm saying? Like, it was different entities that were there, and we didn't probably always come together, but when we did, we were even powerful together versus when we were separate. Like in Toastmasters, like when you backed me up when it was time for me to become president, like, you know, that was a big push, because, man, truth be told, had you thrown your hat in there, I would have been vice president. But you know what I'm saying? It's just those formalities, and you believed in me. You gave me that opportunity to hold me up. You know what I mean? And I appreciate that now more than ever, because, you know, whenever I talk about Toastmasters, I shine at the fact of saying, hey, I was the president of Toastmasters with Sean Oliver in the back of my head.
No, man. But it's just like when you were telling me when I first met you, I have an appreciation for passion and excellence. And I can't say in every circumstance, but in most circumstances where I see success as the world knows it, in business, in education, in team sports, it's individuals who can appreciate the value that others bring rather than be intimidated. And what I've learned personally from my involvement with a lot of men over the years is the fact that a lot of people devalue themselves, and that's why they devalue others. Like somebody asked me one time, they said, why is it so hard for people to uplift people? And I said, because most people are negative on the inside. And that's not a judgment. It means I can't do it. Or if it didn't work then, it's not going to work now. And it's the overachievers that take the attitude, all failure did was show me what not to do the next time.
Absolutely.
You know, and I believe it was, what's the gentleman's name? We had his class. He
John C.
teaches a lot of Maxwell, failing forward.
Yes.
And one of the things that, you know, I took away from that was I already believed like that. It takes a series of events to reach a point. And he made a statement one time. He said that success is not a destination, but it's a journey. But when you're living that journey, and that's one thing where you and I, what I always prayed for you, your son, and the relationship with all parties involved.
Yes.
And one thing I always pray is if he can appreciate that in the midst of people hating on him, or in the midst of him being lied on, or in the midst of him losing his control and maybe saying something a certain way, that's the building process. Because now when you have an opportunity, you had a degree of success before we met. You were going to have greater success after, having nothing to do with per se we met, but having to do with if you were great and you were still selfish. If I was doing things that helped me acquire worldly things, but I was still a liar and a manipulator. Imagine when I'm no longer a liar or manipulator. Imagine when you're no longer selfish, or your anger is tempered. And that's what took place in those times of disappointment. But as you say, some people hold on to them. They hold on to those moments. And that's how sometimes you can get exactly what you wanted to get, the way you wanted to get it. And instead of appreciating it, you're looking at who's not looking at you. In other words, I got it and I'm doing great. And you're not appreciating, but looking back and saying, yeah, he need to, or she should have seen that. They're not even thinking about you now. And those are some serious issues, man. But we're not saying those issues pointing the finger. We're saying that's what problems can cause as opposed to problems can help us develop into the men that we truly are, and not just the ones we want to be. You know, my personal belief, maybe not yours, my personal belief is a lot of people want to take the easy route.
Right.
Bottom line, why should I take the hard route if I can take the easy route? But character, tenacity,
yes,
hope.
yes.
Hey, man,
yes.
Those are some powerful principles that they're established in hard places.
You know, another thing that kind of I had to reflect on recently was it's all about what it is you want for yourself and those around you. However, putting yourself first. And when I had to experience what I just recently experienced, it was just like that moment of forced reflection was needed, because sometimes you need to be snatched back to get your mind right, to be like, hey, you really veering off, you know what I mean, off trail of what it is I've placed you here to accomplish. And as I had to sit down and reflect, it was just like I reflected into a place of mental breakdown and being like, you can't be serious. I worked so hard to get to where it is that I got to. And for me to take these many steps back, and it was just like, this can't be reality. Like, this is not real right now. And it put me in such a vulnerable state. Like, I became desperate. And I was like, I never thought in a million years I would ever get to this state after experiencing what I've experienced and lost as much as I've lost. And it scared me. But everything that you just said with the whole tenacity, it made me remember who I really was and where I'm going in life. And it had to allow me to recalibrate, to be like, hey, yo, Luke, get yourself together, get your mind together. You know, you've come this far, you've been here. So now you gotta come back. You gotta come back. Like, you just don't squander it away. Don't, you know what I mean? And let me tell you something. This book right here, I keep it close to me. And I know I got the Bible right there, but you already know, you know. This book right here.
You think it's a game? Okay, I just want it to be known.
You know what I'm saying? I definitely keep it close. And it's just like, I'm revisiting. I didn't finish reading it. I'm actually reading it the first time through. But as I'm reading it, I'm like, you know what? These principles have been around me all these time. But it's like, Luke, you need to start applying it now. This is the time right now to start applying it and to start doing, and to really turn that mirror more on yourself and start keeping it outwards towards everybody else. Like you were saying, like, it's the whole notion of worrying about everybody else and focusing on everybody else. You know what I mean? And in today's media, it's always everybody wants everybody else's, how do I want to say it? Attention, you know, things of that nature, but you don't need that. You know what I mean? So
I heard a man saying, I won't keep you long because I know you like to keep things short. He said, if you're the only person in the room like you, if you're the only one, a lot of people will say, I'm out of place and I don't belong. But he used the analogy of diamonds. Why are diamonds valuable? What would you say?
diamonds are valuable. You know what? I don't even want to lie. I'm not even going to answer because I don't know.
One of the reasons diamonds are valuable is because they're rare.
Okay.
When you're the only one in the room, instead of looking at it like you're out of place, if I'm the only one in the room like me, instead of being out of place, I'm rare. And if I'm rare, I'm valuable. That's just something to think about.
Absolutely. Hey, brother, I really appreciate this. Do you have any? Oh, so let me ask you, how has it been for you transitioning from one place to another? Because, of course, in my eyes, and from what I've seen, it's like, hey, man, he's doing exactly what he said he would do then now. But I know there are hiccups, and we all are going through our hills and valleys. And I think I'm more interested in wanting to know what has been your biggest obstacle since then to right now.
My biggest obstacle has been me just staying true to myself, because a lot of people, they would look at and say, you were on a fast track. You've accomplished A, B, and C, and you've only been here this long. And my expectations, quite honestly, were to accomplish A through H. And although God has blessed me to accomplish A through D, I was dealing with a lot of disappointment because I'm not at H, because I'm not driven by what others deem as success for me. I'm driven by, when I die, I want to be the best version of me. And so when I'm being the best version of me, whether that's with one or two men in a cold room where people tell me, man, you can't save the unit, you can't help everybody, that's fine. I get my drive because those two individuals are that valuable to me, to where they both have good paying jobs today and they're being successful. And so my point is, I had to cope with, I don't need to fight them because I understand the mentality that they're coming at me with, but I have to have peace within myself that just because I'm not moving as fast as I thought, I have to stay thankful of how I am moving. You know, and so that's been a big thing, because I make sure to stay in a posture of thankfulness, because I'm driven, you know, I'm goal driven, I'm driven. And I told somebody the other day, it doesn't matter to me if it takes a while to accomplish something, but I need to do my part. And what was happening is I was doing my part, but things weren't moving. And an example would be when I first got on the Facebook and the YouTube, things were going like this. The likes, the follows, the so on and so forth. Well, what I did is I pivoted, and I didn't pivot because I was on there for likes and all that. I pivoted because that was in my heart. Doing Bible studies, sharing the word of God, that was what was in my heart. And so when I was doing that, it was building. But all of a sudden, God didn't tell me to stop, but he pointed me in the fact that I believe in people just like you. I believe that your name might not be John Singleton. Mm-hmm. Your name might not be Mario Van Peebles, but I believe from what I've seen and what I've heard from you, you will be a great Black director. And so what happens is, when I believe that, that's my push. That's my motivation to do things just like we did tonight. Say, Luke, if you give me your time, we get on here tonight. But when it didn't work out and the numbers came down and people were like, why did you switch up? I'm like, the only reason I did the Bible was because that was in my heart. The only reason I'm doing the interviews, that's what's in my heart. And I have to be true to me, and I have to be comfortable with me regardless of the results. And that's easy to say, but the reality is this, man, you put up a video and then it's like within a day, I'm just saying, on my little sphere, there's 415 views. And then you put up a video, months is 49, and it's like, man, what, man? But I don't.
It's a love-hate relationship. 1 minute they love you, 1 minute they hate you. But it's all love. Love is love.
But I have to focus on that, because if I don't focus on that, I'm as human as everybody else, and I will get caught up in that. And so that has been the greatest detriment. Like I wrote in that book, my chapter was overcoming myself. No one has ever stopped me. And that's not a boast or a brag. I stopped myself. That's why I told you a long time ago, I said, I don't commit to too many people or too many things, but what I commit to, who I commit to, I'll follow through. And even when you and I were not close, from when I first met you, and the gentleman who mentored you said, hey, I'm leaving. Can you somehow, some way spend some time with him? I never forgot that. Now, whoever, not to be arrogant, how many people do that? Because I'm not going to give my word absently. Right. But at the same time, I have to pay attention that it might not feel the best, or all the voices, the chatter, when you've heard it so much, it's not your thoughts you're hearing, it's everybody else's. And so I just, to maintain my peace, stay thankful. And that has been the greatest obstacle, staying thankful rather than I gotta push. Right. And that's been the greatest obstacle.
Absolutely. I really appreciate you sharing that with me. And I definitely, as always, every conversation with you from day one has been a learning experience for me. And I definitely appreciate you, brother, man. I love you, brother. And thank you, man.
I love you. This would not be the last one, but I appreciate you, bro.
Absolutely. Thank you, brother.